if you are getting this, then you want to know what Tom Fornelli has to say about Ohio State, Penn State. The man had to live blog it, right? The numbers are better when Tom Fornelli live blogs a Big Ten game. That's what the people tell me deep down. So I've got some thoughts on this, but Tom, you really were just like dialed into it. Like this was your primary screen. You were pouring your all into it. 20-12 is our final. Of course, Drew Aller, like 18 for 42, 43% completion percentage. His only touchdown comes in garbage time. And he says in the postgame press conferences, I sucked. Drew Aller comes out and says, like we've got a lot. We need to commit ourselves to the tape and making corrections because that can't happen again. Penn State 1 for 16 on third down. And that only one came with 50 seconds left in the daggum ball game. Like they're
like 70 of their yards on offense came on that final drive too.
Like there's so much that, we can like are the silver bullets back? Like we need to look at Ohio State's defense and hold them up. We also probably need to have some criticism for Penn State's offense, or maybe even for Ohio State's offense as well. Like there's a lot of different layers to get to this. And that's why I wanted to give you the first word, because I mean, you're just all deep in it. So where do you want to go? What's the most important or interesting conversation coming out of Ohio State 20, Penn State 12?
After the game, James Franklin got a lot of attention for his quote about he's like, what I saw out there was, two championship caliber teams, two great defenses. And he got a lot of crap for it on social media because it's like, you just lost 20-12. This game wasn't really that close. You're now 2-13 or whatever his record is against top 10 teams, and whatever on the road. And when you have those kind of numbers, people are going to dunk on you for just not coming out and saying we sucked. But there was truth to what he said. Like there was a lot of really good defense in that game. It's like, this was not one of those 20-12 games that you see a lot of where the offenses were just terrible. Now, there was a lot of bad offense in this game because both of these offensive lines spent all day getting their asses kicked. So that was part of it. Drew Aller could say I sucked, and he did, but Ohio State's defense had a lot of credit for making him suck because he didn't really have time. His receivers were not open, and he was having to force throws that really just weren't there yet. And he was panicking and all that kind of stuff because both Jim Knowles and Manny Diaz did an incredible job of just either bringing pressure or simulating pressure and keeping both Kyle McCord and Drew Aller on their heels the entire time, confusing both offensive lines, who, again, both offensive lines in this game stunk. Like nobody on either one of these teams is going to go watch the tape of this game on these offensive lines and feel good about themselves. Even Olu Fashanu had some bad plays in this one, especially late. It was JT Tuiomalau beating him, getting to Aller and forcing a fumble to kind of end the game on a fourth down. Like it was just an dominating performance by both defenses. That said, the bad stuff on the offenses was there. Drew Aller was 18 for 42, 191 yards. Kyle McCord was 22 at 35 for 286 and a touchdown, but that was very misleading. Like there were a couple big Marvin Harrison catches who had 11 catches for 162 and a touchdown. There was the Cade Stover mossing. That was great. But overall, he was very inconsistent as well. Like he missed a lot of throws that were there. Like there were a couple times where he had Marvin Harrison wide open and he just plain missed him. So it was not the most crisp performance from either offense. But again, I think this was one of those cases where the defenses had a lot more to do with it than just the offenses stinking. Like both of these teams are going to play better or worse defenses next week and look good again.
I think Tom nailed it. I mean, honestly, it was a really good defensive performance. There ain't no doubt about that. If you put Marvin Harrison Jr. on Penn State, does Penn State win the game?
No.
I don't. 11 for 162 is like I watched it and like I knew he was there every quarter of the game, but like this, it felt like. I mean, did it feel like he had 162? I guess it did.
No.
Like every time they needed him.
But look, he had 10 for 185 last year. This dude is just a Penn State killer. And even last year, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s performance is not the thing that stands out to me the most about that game. I mean, this dude is just cooking his secondary that otherwise has been phenomenal. If you're watching us live at youtube.com/cover3, you're seeing the stats on the screen right now. I mean, he puts up these kind of ridiculous numbers all the time. Like this 100-yard performance is moving him up. He is chasing David Boston for the program record for 100-yard games as an Ohio State wide receiver. And that's like, he's going to go down potentially as one of the all-time greats in that program. I believe that he just got ahead of maybe Garrett Wilson. He's right behind Chris Olave now. And again, Boston's at 14, right? So he's like, give him 2 or 3 more 100-yard performances, which who knows? Like if they're going to play a 14 or 15 game season, definitely possible. Then yeah, we're going to see Marvin Harrison Jr. in a lot of categories go down as an all-time great, but Penn State will look at him as a villain forever for the way that he's gone for $150 plus in the last 2 games.
Shout out David Boston, one of the top 5 most jacked wide receivers of all time.
I mean, that was a different Ohio State too. Like, you joke about Common Cord being a Craig Krenzel type.
Yeah.
Let's start calling him David Boston Jr.
No, it was. Oh, go ahead.
No, I did think it was really good defense, but also you have 2 younger quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
One's actually young, one's more young in terms of just not a lot of experience. They're just not finding these guys in a rhythm. Like, there were guys open at times. I thought Penn State's DBs played their butts off overall. Like, there were multiple times Ohio State ended up getting guys open, and they reacted. Recovery speed was good, especially in that first drive where they're heading into the north end zone there. And like McCord has guys kind of open twice, and they closed distance and batted down. But I was left wondering, like, are these guys going to get there this year? Because I don't know, man. Like this, they're not. The ball does not come out on time to the right guy consistently. Like, we know what it looks like. We know what it doesn't look like. This is what it's not supposed to look like more often than not. But I did think the defenses were really good.
Yeah, I felt terrible for Kalen King because I feel like overall he played very well today, but he got called for the one defensive holding on the Penn State scoop and score, and it was then there was another penalty he drew, or it was a pass interference, but Marvin Harrison caught it anyway because he just kind of ran through him because he's Marvin Harrison. He's very good. But I feel like those 2 plays stick out. They're going to be like highlight reel or like, blooper reel kind of stuff, but I feel like the rest of the game he was fantastic, and it's just those are the 2 moments that are going to stick out. And Miami just beat Clemson, by the way.
Wow. Like Dabo said, if you don't go undefeated, nobody appreciates you.
I mean, if you think the fans are mad that you're not undefeated, how are they going to feel when you're 4-3 and just lost on the road to a Miami team without Tyler Van Dyke?
Oh man. Oh. You know what? Hey, listen. Let's. Not repeating that for the audio listeners. I don't have any refrigerators up here. I would go find like something to pop for Mario Cristobal for winning an ACC home game.
Yeah.
Like we need to really congratulate Cristobal for getting it done. Woo, against the reigning champs too. Oh, they didn't have to kneel. Great point, Danny. Man. All right. Sorry. Like that is that's quite a result in the AC in a day full of good. Let's not get distracted here. Penn State side of this moving forward, because it's only your first loss of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you still control your own destiny. Like you could still get to the Big Ten championship. You could still win it. You could still get to the playoff. Problem is, if your offensive line couldn't hold up against Ohio State's defense, it's hard to imagine you're going to have a much better time against Michigan, because that was one thing that I was thinking as I was watching this game too, is that if these 2 teams can't deal with each other, Michigan's going to beat them both by 20. Like, Michigan just is that much better than them. And I know Michigan to this point hasn't played a team of either caliber, but at some point you just kind of have to look at what the Wolverines are doing to everybody and saying, yeah, no, that's just who they are. And you're not going to out physical them. They're going to out physical you, or at least match your physicality. And I feel like that was the big key and big takeaway to me for both teams going forward, is their offensive lines couldn't match the physicality of the defenses that they were facing.
And those are legit D lines, but to Tom's point, like, you are going to face another one, probably better actually, in Michigan. So yeah, I mean, if you're a Penn State fan, I think you're left wondering, like, is this another 10-2? Is this just what we are? How can we take that next step?
I don't want to try to like bury them or hit them while they're down, but did you see enough to say that they definitely will? Because I'll read it off. Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Rutgers, Michigan State. Do you feel like there's enough there that they are definitely going to go 4-1 through that stretch?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think they are definitively and clearly much more athletic than the rest of that schedule. And then also definitively a level of below Michigan.
Because when you're sorting out undefeated teams, you're like, okay, they haven't beaten anybody, but they're undefeated.
Yeah.
So now there's a little bit of a different approach where, you see the ceiling, you see the floor, you see the talent. Welcome Penn State to the world of the quality loss. You held your own against one of the best teams in the country, and that is your best defining quality. Mm-hmm. Your 8-point loss at Ohio State means more than your 31-0 win against Iowa, and means more than your 38-15 win against West Virginia. It's not my opinion. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling you how this thing normally goes. For the Buckeyes, you mentioned the quarterback. You mentioned the offense. Do you see a path forward where that improves moving forward, or is Ohio State what Ohio State is? Because I'll go back to my first point. I do think that Ohio State's defense is awesome.
Yeah.
And to the point where they can be led by that defense to the highest of heights, competing for a national championship and a 14 playoff.
I don't know if their offensive line can improve, but they didn't have Igbuka today. They didn't have Henderson. They didn't have Burke in the secondary. They were missing a lot of key guys. And if they get healthy, they're not really at their peak yet. So if those guys come back offensively, yeah, this team can be better than it was today. But at the same time, Ohio State has played two really good teams. Ohio State's offense has struggled to move the ball against both of those teams. And Ohio State's offense has struggled to finish drives against everybody. It has been bad in the red zone all year. It was okay in the red zone today. It did score some touchdowns. It did enough to win, but it's still, if they're going to win the Big Ten, if they're going to beat Michigan, if they're going to get to the playoff and beat the teams they're going to face there, they need to be a lot better in the red zone than they have been.
I don't know if McCord can get that much better in season. Maybe he can. It's not crisp. And it's been not crisp against good opponents and also at times against lesser opponents. Purdue, to me, with the amount of man coverage they play and the lack of athletes with which they play that man coverage, was not really a sign of growth. Now, Ohio State deserves credit for taking care. One thing Ohio State did, they finished drives better than Penn State did. Neither was amazing at it, but
Ohio State, Penn State didn't even sniff scoring opportunities
until the very end. Yeah.
Yeah. It's they did not have the ball close enough to be able to get red zone statistics until
their first red zone snap was with 50 seconds left.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It was dominant defensive performance. Again, I'll say that my silver bullets are back, baby. That defense was a liability. Now it is a strength, and in my eyes, it is the strongest football thing that you can point to as a team outside of the individual excellence of Marvin Harrison Jr.
Most important question is, what do you guys think of Maserati Marv?
I told you I was dialed in to Dave. No. First audio was Rich Waltz, Aaron Taylor, and Amanda Guerra, the GOAT. All right. Second audio, when we were at commercial, was to go to Dave and Dusty and Luke's. I did not choose at any time during my 3-screen rotation to have audio on that broadcast.
Blessed.
For self-care. I realized it was a viral sensation based on the commentary in our workroom. Somebody said that if you did a drinking game for Maserati Marv, you were dead midway through the fourth quarter.
Maserati Marv.
I recognized that it was a thing. I did not hear it with my own ears. Oh, Grant says Maserati Marv and Kyle Honda McCord.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's pretty good.
Hey, that's the new Jag Plus. Instead of our Jag Plus is we're just gonna call you by your automobile. Yeah. Calling them Honda McCords. Fantastic. Grant, I'm sorry. We're probably going to end up taking that. I'll give you a shout out for it anytime I use it outside of this realm, but that's now part of the lexicon. But you got anything else here?
I mean, look, they got a couple weeks until they got to play Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get just over a month. And how much better can you get? Should we mention this? Like, we haven't been on the air since the sign stealing allegations came up. Like, does that impact this matchup? I'm sure we'll have more time to talk about it, but like that's immediately where my mind goes. Like, did Michigan have their signs the last time they played? How big is the gap truly between these teams, right? Is it the gap that we saw the last 2 years, or is it maybe a little bit less? Who knows? I was impressed by Ohio State taking care of business. Did I come away thinking like that's a team that can win a national title? I did not. Sorry.